Welcome to I Design My Own Reality. Unlock the power of your worth. Lucille Ball said, love yourself first and everything else falls into place. You really have to love yourself to get anything done in this world. Do you ever feel like you're missing something in life and you just keep trying to fill this void? Are you running from yourself and creating the same difficult patterns over and over and over? Deep down, do you question if you're as good as other people? I'm Cindy Allen Stuckey, founding president and CEO of Making Performance Matter and author of The Shift Café, where women who drink coffee together change the world. As a heart-centered, business-savvy, straight-talking international speaker, coach, and educator, my mission is to serve people who are determined to create positive changes in their lives. Using my unique system, I've empowered organizations, corporate colleagues, and private clients to achieve their goals, live their dreams, and step into the power of their potential. So today, I'm going to provide you with some proven simple, yet very highly effective tools that will help you reclaim the foundation of designing your own reality, and that is nurturing your self-worth. I'll give you everything I can in the time allotted, and I promise you'll leave with an action step that you can take immediately. I'll also give you an opportunity to connect with me further for additional resources. Now, we all have times in our life when our self-worth feels so vulnerable and weak, shattered by the spite of another. And for some people, this feeling might be a short-term situation that passes swiftly. But for others, it's an ongoing issue that feels overwhelming and unfixable. It can become a debilitating force that adversely impacts many aspects of our lives, including relationships, careers, and even finances. It can also run our dreams, preventing us from pursuing our ambitions. Now, sometimes we know exactly when, how, and why our self-worth became dented. Perhaps it was a cruel manager in our workplace who demeaned the quality of our work. It may have been the partner who diminished aspects of our personality or betrayed our love. I've no doubt you'll be able to think of times when your self-worth was so damaged. Often, however, the reason our self-worth is sufficiently fragile in adulthood to become shattered is due to detrimental experiences in childhood of which you may or may not be aware. I'm no different. When I was a very little girl, I also had experiences that knocked my self-worth and created such difficult feelings that took me a long time to overcome. It was only by carefully examining these experiences that I was able to understand what had happened and how it had affected me and my life for such a long time, that I was able to conquer these disempowering feelings. But before I share my self-worth journey, I want you to think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 equals self-worth, I don't even know what you're talking about. And 10 is, I know so much about self-worth, I should be facilitating this. How are you feeling right now about your self-worth? And write down this number. So I was one of the first children in the world to ever have open heart surgery. When my great-grandmother first held me, she said, there's something wrong with this child. She's breathing too fast. Her heart's too fast. At the time, no one took any notice of her. However, when I was around 4 months old, I was very sick and put on oxygen in an oxygen tent. The doctors couldn't work out if I'd had a heart attack or if I was suffering from pneumonia. And eventually, when I was well enough, I left the hospital without them ever clarifying exactly what had been wrong with me. Right after that, my parents started taking me to a pediatrician who, when I was about 3 years old, referred me to Riley Children's Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana. Now, back in the 1950s and 60s, hospitals were so traumatic for children. The quiet waiting room was merely a row of folding chairs. in the hallway, seating anxious parents with nervous children. Somebody would come and call the child's name, and parents weren't allowed to go in with them. So here I am at 3 years old, having to walk in to be examined by people I've never before seen. I'm not sure how much I remember about being examined, but I do remember finding it very frightening. And in all the physician's notes that I've read relating to the examinations, the doctors had written something to this effect. The patient has been very difficult to examine because she was crying all the time, or was hard to get readings because she was screaming. Well, yes, I now think to myself when I read these notes, of course I was screaming. I was a tiny child who was very frightened, who didn't have a clue what was going on, and was there alone without my parents. So, of course, I was screaming and crying. Over time, many tests were done at Riley Hospital. And during these appointments, monitors were strapped to my body and endless examinations were conducted. Despite this, the doctors initially found it hard to figure out what was wrong with me. It was a scary time for everyone, especially my parents. If I became the slightest bit sick or my temperature rose, I had to be taken to the hospital immediately. One day, I had enough. I'd been strapped to lots of monitors and had to repeatedly climb up and down 4 steps. So one time, I'd had enough and I stomped my foot and said, "No, I'm not doing it." Of course, everyone was telling me, "Cindy, you must do this." And at this point, I got down on the floor and threw what people in those days called a temper tantrum, still with the monitors attached to me. That was the moment when something shifted for the doctor. The monitors, triggered by the action of me stomping and throwing a temper tantrum, recorded a shift that allowed my doctors to see that my health problem was with my heart. From there, they were able to diagnose 2 serious heart conditions. And at age 6, I was scheduled for open heart surgery. I really don't remember much of anything about the surgery, and I don't even remember getting ready for it. But I do remember the days afterwards. There were no such things as private or semi-private rooms. There were just all these girls in one room, and each had a curtain that they could pull around their bed for privacy during doctors' rounds and family visits. My mom had small gifts for me that she'd given to the nurses to pass on, as parents were allowed to visit only on Wednesday and Sunday for half an hour. Now, while the surgery was successful, and that was, of course, wonderful, there was a power aftermath of emotions and lifelong issues stemming from my experiences for me to contend with. Understandably, for a child so young, not all of these emotions were positive, and many of these experiences adversely impacted my self-worth. But before I share more about my own experience with self-worth, I want to give you my definition of self-worth. So my definition is an innate sense of knowing, feeling, and believing that you're enough, regardless of the circumstances or approval of others. You respect, value, and love yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, and your skills. Now, I'm not saying that everything is perfect in life, in your life, because it sure isn't in mine either. But with confident self-worth, you innately and truly believe that you are enough through the good times and the bad. You respect, value, and love yourself. And remember, self-worth is a foundation for you to be able to design your own reality. So when I work with my clients, I've found that a hindering theme relating to self-worth is that people often confuse it with self-esteem. So my definition of self-esteem is a learned set of beliefs, thoughts, and feelings about yourself, which can change based on your mood, circumstances, or the external opinion of others. So you can see self-worth and self-esteem are different. Self-esteem can change based on so many external circumstances in your life and opinions of others. Self-worth is unseen, but it's the infrastructure that holds the pieces of your life together. Without a high self-worth, you keep running from yourself and creating these same difficult patterns over and over and over. Let me give you an example. After my surgery, my self-esteem was pretty high. I was told by the medical professionals and by my family that I was healthy and I could do anything I wanted to do. So I could run and play, finally. And I did well in school, and I was musically inclined and won awards. And I was in all the right groups and organizations. But deep inside, I knew I wasn't enough. The only way I could spend a night with someone, even with my relatives, was to talk to my mom every few hours on the phone. And my dad had told me that if he had to come and get me at night, I couldn't go back to wherever I was again. So I endured this horrible, horrible homesickness. Many of my friends would go to camps in the summer and go on holidays with their friends. And I was angry at myself, and I felt so much shame because I wouldn't do this. So again, I knew I wasn't enough. And then there was college. I was accepted into my first choice, so I should have been thrilled. But when it was the day to go, I cried forever. I lived in a dorm and I begged to come home. It was only after making an agreement with my parents that I could drop out of college after 1 year that I was able to survive. But I still came home almost every weekend. However, dropping out of college just again validated to me that I wasn't like others. Why could everyone else live away from home and I couldn't do it? And I was so disappointed in myself. Now, this pattern continued through my adult years. I even resigned from a job because I was going to have to be required to spend 2 nights at a conference. Eventually, I finished college, commuting every day, and I became a first grade teacher, teaching 6-year-olds, the same age I was when I had surgery. My students loved me. Parents and my principal praised me for my ability to break down lessons so that every child was able to achieve. And standardized test scores showed how much my students had improved, leading me to have high self-esteem about my teaching. But I still had this buried secret deep inside, this innate sense that I wasn't good enough. And I prayed that I wouldn't have to go to a conference or training where I'd have to spend the night. That not good enough feeling also impacted my relationships. And in going through a divorce, I even said, I knew this was going to happen. Everyone I love always leaves me. Do you see what I was doing? I kept running from myself and creating the same difficult patterns over and over and over. And because I didn't know I was doing it, and I didn't know what it was about, I couldn't stop it. It wasn't until one day, one of my many times when I was meeting with a counselor, and notice I said many, that she suggested I had an abandonment fear. So she asked, Cindy, were you adopted? No. Were you lost as a child? No. Were you in the hospital as a child? Yes. And all of a sudden, everything started making sense. As a very young child, I had to go with people I'd never met to be examined. And when I was in a hospital for 9 days at age 6 for heart surgery, my parents were only allowed to visit me for 30 minutes on Sunday and Wednesday. This was a common practice at the time. So yes, I had an abandonment fear, and no wonder I struggled so much with the feeling of not enough. So this was the first time in my life ever that everything made sense. And this was the start of my journey of me designing my own reality by unlocking the power of my own worth. So now it's your turn. You are the one who has the power and control over your feelings of self-worth, no one else. The belief that others can influence how we feel about ourselves dates back to childhood when we trusted parents, teachers, and other significant adults. From their words and their actions, we determined our worth at that time. And even though we may have high self-esteem in many areas, like I did, many times our innate self-worth, defined as a sense of knowing and feeling that you're enough, regardless of the circumstances of approval of others. And you respect, value, and love yourself and your thoughts and your feelings and your skills. So many times that is low or can even be destroyed. Remember, self-worth is the foundation that holds the pieces of your life together so you can design your own reality. So now let's explore the roots of your self-worth. So the first step in reclaiming and or maintaining your self-worth is to identify triggers in your life that have crushed you. Remember the question the counselor asked me? So right now, I want you to start thinking about who or what are the triggers in your life that have affected your self-worth. You may already know, or like me, you may need to talk with friends or relatives or professionals who can help you sort this out. And in addition to identifying them, I want you to write them down. So tell me, based on what you know now, then you can do some more work afterwards, which 3 people or situations crumpled your self-worth. And yes, go back to childhood. So take time to think about the 3 people or situations and write those down. Now, where you've written this down, I want you to take this paper and destroy it. Rip it up. I ran mine through our paper shredder, and then I put it in water so it dissolved. You can burn yours or bury yours or do whatever you want. It's, you know this, but you don't have to let it control you. You're destroying that control that it had. So now that you've crumpled your what happened with your self-worth and self-esteem, the next step is reclaiming and or maintaining your self-worth. And that is to recognize your own self-worth and sense how it feels. The way you can counter those who, as outlined above, have the power to derail you is to do this. So, for example, I feel value in my skills as a facilitator of the Shift Café conversations. I know I'm really good at this. I'm an expert. And I don't need anyone to tell me this. Therefore, I feel a strong sense of self-worth in this area of my life. Of course, it's really nice when participants praise my work. That definitely helps my self-esteem, but I'm not reliant on that. I have a strong rooted and grounded belief in my skills in this area that nourish my sense of worth. From there, I have been able to allow the development of the Shift Cafe book, the program, membership group, and I speak on it. I feel worthy. I am worthy. Notice how with these powerful statements, I'm owning my own self-worth. Now, do you question if you're enough? Or maybe you haven't really thought about it much. You may currently feel your self-worth is low, but I'm sure you also have a sense for which activities you innately feel you have skills and talent. So let's get a strong sense of where you feel competent and successful. So tell me, what are 3 areas in your life where you feel a strong sense of value and self-worth? And take time to list these 3 areas. This is so important. I want you to know where your self-worth is strong. Once you've done this, Now I want you to claim your worth. So under each one of the self-worth statements, go back and write, I feel worthy, I am worthy, and I don't need anyone else to validate this. So let me repeat this again. Under each one of those statements, go back and write, I feel worthy, I am worthy. I don't need anyone else to validate this. It's an important step. Make sure you do it. Now, I want you to start connecting with the feeling of self-worth. So notice where you feel the sensations of self-worth in your body. So when I'm connected to my sense of worth, my body feels warm and relaxed, and my breathing is easy and slow. And I know I have this glow around my shoulders, and my eyes feel bright and alert. So how does your sense of self-worth show up in your body? And take time to write this down. Now, in knowing the above, you'll be able to keep track of when you're in a confident or an insecure state of self-worth. When you're in an insecure state, come back and remind yourself of these areas where you don't question your self-worth. Breathe back into the positive and loving feelings connected to your confident self-worth. And say, I am confident. I am good. Can you start to see how self-worth truly is a foundation that holds up the pieces of your life? So think about the foundation of your home, not this foundation. If it's weak, it doesn't matter what else you do or what stuff you have that you put in there. Everything's eventually going to fall through the floorboards. It's the same way with self-worth. This is your foundation. You have to have confident self-worth before you can start building any of these other things on your foundation. So by this time, you probably realize, oh, wow, there's so many tools that I can use to build my self-worth foundation. And you worked just a few of them today. And you're going to leave today, as I promised, with the shift action step. But before we do this, I want to talk to you about the importance of having a system and a support structure. So I've introduced you to a few of the tools today to help you start on your self-worth journey. And as I've mentioned, there are so many others that I have. But one of the biggest reasons why we're not able to unleash our self-worth is that we need a system and support structure. And for many of us left under our own supervision, we won't take the steps to do what needs to be done to actually change because it's difficult. And you need feedback, and you need someone to ask you the right questions. That's why I created the Step into the Power of Your Self-Worth VIP Day, a learning opportunity just like you've been enjoying today, where you get to discover and identify which emotion or emotions are you stuck in. You get to manage these stuck emotions so they don't continue to control you. Shift from insecure to confident self-worth, and then rebuild your self-worth so that moving forward, it becomes unbreakable. So in this 6-hour VIP day, you'll work with me individually, and you'll walk away with action steps to claim your self-worth. In addition to the VIP day, you'll get 2 30-minute individual coaching calls with me so I can check on progress and for your accountability. Now, the regular price of this VIP day is $397. But to reward you for taking fast action, you can get it only for the next 12 hours for $297. After the next 12 hours, then the price goes back to $397. Now, I can tell you, I've been empowering people to step into their self-worth for a long time. And it's almost magical how quickly each person is able to step into their power. So now, let's commit to take action, your action step. I'm all about taking action. I talk about this all the time. So the way I defined an action step is it's an action, thought, or feeling that will bring you closer to accomplishing your heart's yearning. So tell me, what is your self-worth focused action step that you're going to take over the next 24 hours? So when you learn a new tool or a new skill, it's vital to practice it immediately. And that's why I'm asking you, what is an action step you're going to take related to self-worth over the next 24 hours? Write this down and commit to doing it. Are you ready to reclaim your self-worth, the foundation of designing your own reality? So today, we talked about a couple of tools. First, you identified triggers, people or situations that have crushed your self-worth. You wrote these down and then you destroyed this list. Let's destroy this. You know, they don't have the power over me any longer. Next, you identified three areas in your life where you feel a strong sense of value and self-worth, and wrote under each one, I feel worthy. I am worthy. I don't need anyone else to validate this. And finally, you wrote about how does your sense of self-worth show up in your body? Are you ready to embark on a life-shifting journey where you learn how to step into the power of your self-worth? Remember when I asked you the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling about your self-worth? Wouldn't you love to answer that differently and feel more confident about your self-worth? I'm sure all of you are thinking, I know how to do this. I don't need the VIP day. So if you know how to do it, why aren't you doing it? I want to reemphasize the importance of having the structure, tools and techniques, and also having a support structure to help guide you through this. This is why I created the Step into the Power of Your Self-Worth VIP Day, structured just like what you've been enjoying today. So in the 6-hour VIP day, you'll work with me immediately and me individually, and you'll also get 2 30-minute individual coaching calls with me so that we can talk about your progress and I can help you or give you some more tools. The regular price is $397, but to reward you for taking fast action, and remember, I've already said I'm all about action, you can get it immediately for $297. Now, this offer is good only for the next 12 hours, and after that, the price goes back to $397. And underneath here is a link where you can click to sign up for this VIP offer. I believe in you. And I know you can step into your power, into your self-worth, the foundation of designing your own reality. Are you ready? Remember, no one can love me as much as I love myself. Thank you.